everyone, welcome back. We've come to the last segment of our session today. My name is Hayu Rita and I'm a student experience and engagement officer here at Curtin Singapore. Okay, so at Curtin Singapore, you will have the opportunity to connect with a vibrant community of students from diverse backgrounds, and you will benefit from a global perspective. So let's find out more from two of our student leaders here at Curtin Singapore about what it's like to study at Curtin and live in Singapore. Okay, you'll also learn how you can be involved with student clubs, which is a great way to make new friends and enjoy your university experience. So today we have Nicole Cruz, President of our student committee, as well as Bernard Koo, Vice President of our student committee, and they will share about their experiences here in Curtin, Singapore. So please tell us more about yourself. Let's start with Nicole.
Okay, hi everyone. So my name is Nicole, and I'm the president of the student committee at Curtin Singapore, and I'm from the Philippines. And my course is a Bachelor of Communications and specializing in journalism as well as web media. And I think I've been here in Singapore for about 15 years now. I actually migrated from the Philippines to Malaysia, and then, well, here I am. So yeah, that's a little bit more about myself.
Thank you for sharing. And Bernard, how about you?
Hello, my name is Bernard Koo. I'm from Malaysia. I currently study Bachelor of Commerce, majoring in marketing and advertising. I've been here since I think February 2022, but that was because of COVID. So I was doing an online course with Curtin Singapore starting I think October 2021. And now here I am. I'm currently the Vice President of Curtin Singapore Student Committee, as well as the representative for the students at the academic board, as well as the Director General of our Curtin Singapore's Model United Nations.
Wow, thank you for sharing both of your diverse backgrounds here at Curtin Singapore. So as President and Vice President of Curtin Singapore Student Committee, can you share with us what are the student clubs available here?
Okay, so we have 7 clubs in total in Curtin Singapore. So we have first, of course, the student committee, and then we're basically the bridge between the school as well as the students. If they have any inquiries about clubs or they have any suggestions how to make these student events here at Curtin Singapore better, we can relate to the school so that in the future there are better events, bigger events as well. And then next we have Curtin Business Club, and basically they help out with making their LinkedIn a little bit more vibrant and more professional looking, as well as kind of get to know how the business world works. I think that's really helpful for undergraduates who are going to look for a job in the future, maybe an internship or full-time work. Yeah. And then we also have Kunci, which is an Indonesian club, mostly for the Indonesian community. And then we also have the Curtin Singapore Community Service Club. This is for students who are very interested in trying to give back to the community and do community service work where they can help with charities as well as for good cause, basically. Yep.
And otherwise, we like to keep ourselves active here at Curtin Singapore. So we have the Sports and Adventure Club, which actually handles all the sports in Singapore, as well as adventure. So if you like hiking, if you like playing badminton, football, this is the club for you. We also have a different way of expressing ourselves. So we like to have, dance club. We also have the music club as well, in which they perform occasionally at our events, and they like to engage themselves in a different way of expressing.
Oh, so those are some very interesting clubs that we have here. Bernard, this question is actually for you.
Yes.
So at Curtin Singapore, so we have a mix of both domestic and international students. So how would you describe your experience so far in terms of making friends and maintaining your relationships here at Curtin Singapore?
I think it's been great. It's been a fun experience here at Curtin Singapore, especially since our campus and country that we are located in isn't very big, but it isn't very small either. So it's more like a close community where you can easily find friends, maybe throughout your classes, or say, for example, you go to clubs and then you join activities and you meet new friends that way. You can actually also encourage them to join other clubs, maybe like Creating Singapore Community Service, maybe community service together, make friends that way. And it's also good because it's easy to maintain relationships here, especially since we have our counseling services. So if you have anything that's troubling you inside, you can actually get to a Student Connect, which is a sort of place, a platform where you can find a student officer, and then you can schedule a session there.
For counseling session, maybe?
Yep, for counseling sessions.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, thank you for sharing your social experience here in Curtin, Singapore. Happy to hear that. How about Nicole? For you, can you describe a typical day in your life here at Curtin, Singapore?
Okay, so funny thing is, in Singapore, it's kind of hot. Like the weather is pretty humid. But in Curtin, Singapore, it's actually really cold. So I think the biggest advice that I might have to give to people who want to join us here at Curtin, Singapore is actually to bring a jacket or a sweater like what I'm wearing right now, because it does get pretty cold when you're in the lectures. And as well, I want to add to how at Curtin Singapore, we're very heavy on technology. The previous speaker, Lilin, she actually mentioned about the facial recognition. So that is used for our attendance. We do it at the start of the lesson as well as at the end of the classes. And what else I do is basically attend my classes, my lectures, and my tutorials. And in these tutorials, we actually are encouraged by our lecturers to really engage and participate in the class. So there'll be questions asked, and you're really free to engage and even maybe debate with your classmates, where if your point doesn't match up with theirs, you're really encouraged to really speak up. And then there's this sort of critical interaction and let's say friendly debate with one another. I think it really does help with your critical thinking skills as well as your communication skills. And what do I do for my lunch? Okay, there are actually vending machines at our campus. It's located at level 3, so it's this place called UniHub, and we also have like a cafe at the first floor. But I think for me, I'm kind of more of a vending machine type of person. So yeah, I go and get my lunch over there.
Is there a variety of options that you can choose from?
There are. There's lots of beverages. If you're more of like the coffee person, there's a whole vending machine for that. And then if you're more into like, I don't know if I'm allowed to say, but there's actually sugary drinks as well if you're into that. But of course, water, and in terms of food, there's noodles, there's chips and crackers. So I think there is quite a variety. It really depends on your preference as well. Yeah.
How about in terms of the facilities that Curtin Singapore have in order to support your studies here?
Well, we do have a student connect. I think Bernard actually mentioned it previously. So when you have problems with your academics or your attendance, you can actually go to the Student Connect at level 4, and there will be staff that are, eagerly assisting you with this regard. And you can actually scan a QR code where you kind of have like a waiting system so that everybody's kind of like assisted in an orderly manner, and you know when your turn is to be what do you call this, accounted for basically. And I think it's a really efficient way as well. I mean, sometimes you don't know who to look for when it comes to help. So a Student Connect is really helpful when we have issues or inquiries that we really want to solve at a timely manner. Yeah.
So, tapping on to the heavy usage of technology as well as student support services such as counseling and the queue management
Mm.
system at Student Connect. How about in the library? Are there any interesting features in the library that are used to support our studies
I
here?
think you can answer this one.
I think we actually have a range of computers that are used for not just research. If you forget to bring a laptop,
Oh.
we also have printing services, which I think find very, very useful, especially since you may not have your own printer at home, or maybe you live elsewhere, so you need to have those printing services when it comes to attending your classes, being able to make notes for interviews and such. And I also think that the library has a good space for you to work because first of all, it's quiet. It helps you focus. And the main thing that is the highlight of the library is actually the group pods or the singular pods. And what you can do is go to the counter at the library, tell the librarian that you want to book this pod maybe for an hour, maybe for an hour or two with your friends or maybe for yourself to do an interview, to do work. And it really helps you concentrate because it's soundproof. So whatever you say in there won't get out, or if you have
Yeah.
sensitive information, it won't be.
And also because it's in the library, right?
Yes.
So we need to maintain the silence there. Okay, thank you for sharing, both of you. So now, I assume that majority of our audience today are considering to study here at Curtin Singapore. So do you have any advice for students who are preparing to embark or start on their university journey here?
I think really managing your time well is key to, balancing your work as well as your own personal time, because here at Curtin Singapore, we offer fast track degree programs. So I think it really has to do with really balancing your time well so that um, your hobbies outside of classes won't be affected. And then I think the next one would be, besides bringing the jacket, because it gets pretty chilly. I think really putting yourself out there. For myself, I don't think I was as vocal or as extroverted in a sense before, but being the president of the student committee, it has really pushed me to step out of my comfort zone and, you know, get out there and make friends, even just when events, like you can just talk to someone and then they can be potentially your good friend or for networking purposes. Yeah.
I think for me, same thing. Time management is a genuine factor that really factors into your whether you do well in university or not, and it builds over to in your workspace further in the future when you really need to manage your time well, to manage deadlines, talk to specific people, and maybe also organize your own personal life as well so that you don't go insane. But time management is a true virtue. I think it's a practice that you should definitely, or everybody should definitely put into practice as soon as possible. If you haven't done so, then you definitely should. Another thing I think is the culture here. So be prepared. Don't come here and suddenly get a culture shock, because I can understand that some of you may range from different cultures, different backgrounds. Maybe you have seen different things, so therefore you have this main conception of how people are supposed to act. But maybe here it's a little bit different, so just be prepared for that as well. Another skill I think is good, not just for university, but it's also good for being in the workplace as well, is adaptability. Being able to adapt to your current environment, whether if it's hot, whether if it's cold, or whether you're stressed or not, being able to manage that stress as well is important.
Okay, that's some very useful advice that we can take into account on our daily lives as well. Okay, so let's actually end our session on a positive note. So tell us, what are some of your favorite things or places here in Singapore?
Okay, so I've been here for 15 years. Um, I actually feel like a very basic person, but my go-to places are probably Bugis area. There's a lot of cafes in there. It's located in this place called Haji Lane, but it's a long stretch, so just you can walk around there find something to do, take photographs if you're into that. And then for Orchard, it's more of an eating place as well as shopping. If you're a very like an avid shopper, Orchard I think is the place for you. Somerset area as well. And then what else do I do? What else do
Shopping
I
and
do?
eating.
I think benefits of actually being here in Singapore, not just in current Singapore, is really having easy access to public transport. That's really, really easy. The buses and trains. I don't think you'll ever be late unless you purposely leave your house late. And then what do you call this? The food is amazing. I think my favorite food would be Hokkien prawn mee.
Oh,
For a local dish, yeah, Hokkien prawn mee, chicken rice, those two. Yeah, am I rambling? Sorry, your turn.
For me, I think if you're an avid gamer like myself, you'd really enjoy the good internet speed here. So that's one thing that is good about Singapore. Otherwise, it's the easy access to amenities. You can easily access food, even popular places, tourist attractions, or even just a place to have fun and chill. Sorry. That is very easily accessible here in Singapore. Otherwise, neighboring countries are also a very easily accessible place, like say Malaysia, Philippines, Indonesia, Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand. These are some countries that have really good attractions there, and you can easily access them from Singapore. Otherwise, yeah, like net cafes, something I do.
What's your
Not really
favorite
often.
local food?
What's my favorite local
Yeah.
food? As a Malaysian, I think food here is relatively it's decent. It's not too bad, but of course they can do better with the seasoning. But yeah, Singapore has a good variety of food, where sometimes like my country in Malaysia, you'd have to drive to get to somewhere that's really good. But in Singapore, you can find good food nearly just maybe 5 minutes walk, 10 minutes walk. It's really accessible here in Singapore.
So accessibility is the main point
Yes.
here.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you so much for sharing your student life experiences here with us, Nicole and Bernard.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having
We've come to the end of our webinar. So a big thank you to everyone for joining us today at Discover Curtin Singapore. We hope you have found this session to be informative and valuable. So don't forget to follow us on our social media platforms at Curtin Singapore for the latest news and updates. So have a great rest of the day and we hope to see you soon. Thank you.